Hello, this is Gregory Madison again on addictions. And again, as I stated in my first video, I am attempting to bring to you what would be the most sound approach to addictions there is, which is a biblical approach to addictions. As I stated also in my first video, that there are only 4 methods in which one can approach an addiction. One is suicide. 2 is to continue in the addiction. 3, non-biblical approaches to addictions. And 4, a biblical approach to addictions. I can tell you personally that I have considered each one of these. Thank God I did not succeed in the approach of suicide. There was a time when I considered to continue on with the addiction as a solution. I was also exposed to many non-biblical methods to addictions, and within those experiences, I began seeking biblical methods because I just wasn't getting as much as I could out of non-biblical measures. Now, if you were to do a search online, you would find that there was not very much biblical material for addictions available until perhaps the late 90s. I began using crack cocaine and became quickly addicted in 1989. Within a few years after being exposed to secular treatment, I began seeking out biblical answers. I would go to libraries and search in various places, bookstores, or whatever was possible at the time, looking for material that was biblical, and there was very little available. Thank God right now you can go on the internet and you can find some pretty good material. As I also mentioned, I think I may have mentioned this on my first video, among approaches to addictions, even those that are biblical, the difference would be whether they are more Christ-centered. Some approaches are more Christ-centered than others, even among biblical approaches. That's what really makes the difference. And so I'm attempting to really bring something that is totally Christ-centered. Another thing is that you have to look at how the addictions are defined. A lot of people are concerned nowadays with the user, and they're concerned of what the addiction does to the user rather than how God is affected. The question is no longer whether God is offended over this. It's how it is that the person has been hurt. Well, here's my question. Is God offended? Is he hurt? Well, yes, we can say that. And so here's the other question. Do you think that our addictions hurt us and others more than they do God? Now, when you go into looking at the definition for addictions, we can see how God is hurt more accurately by defining the addictions as the idols that they are. I know there's different ways of looking at an addiction, and by the way, I do not believe in the disease concept. That's something that we will discuss in the future, but just to make things clear from the start, I don't believe in this disease concept. I wrestled with it for many years. I have been exposed to Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous. I'm very fluent in their language. At one time, I actually was in a rehab that that had a requirement of studies into this disease concept, even from textbooks. And the Spirit of God was just telling me, no, this is not the answer. He kept telling me, this is not it. And I almost believed it, but it's just, God kept saying me that that's not it. And again, there are many arguments against that. We don't have time to go into that right now. But let's talk about idolatry a little bit. Idolatry is the most biblical, accurate definition of addictions. And so from there, when we look at the addiction as an idol, then we can see where, first of all, right off the bat, how addictions separate us from God. There's a misconception nowadays that, and it's unspoken, people think that they start out as being right with God. And this is where this disease concept even corrupts the gospel. Because if I'm okay with God from the start and I just have an illness, then I haven't offended God. I don't need to get right with God. I don't need to repent. I just need to be healed. And there's a lot of talk about healing nowadays, which has its place, but that is not the place to start in dealing with addictions. Even when you talk about people who have had past problems, they have been hurt in the past, and a lot of people want to say, well, let's go